In the middle of the desert, in one of the hottest countries in the world, the Arabs decided to build a city where almost every resident has access to their own private beach. And it's not Dubai. And they're not artificial islands either, but rather a project as ambitious as it is eccentric, known as Sabah Al-Ahmad Sea City. However, this is not just a luxury seaside city, because this city was carved out of the desert itself, with canals connected to the sea, artificial beaches, and a hydrodynamic system with limited use of support pumps. Yes, it really does seem like an exaggeration, and maybe it is, but there's an explanation. It involves oil, war, environmental solutions, and advanced engineering. In this video, you'll find out why Kuwaiti decided to bring the sea into the desert. How was this city built with the help of the tides, and why? Even though it looks like a futuristic resort, it is actually a direct response to the lack of space, the housing crisis, and the trauma of the Gulf War. In the 1980s, Kuwait was one of the richest countries in the world per capita. Oil drove everything. Population growth, rapid urbanization, and a boom in demand for high-end housing. And with that, the desire for waterfront homes grew along with people's incomes. But there was an undeniable physical limit. Coastal space was scarce and already almost completely taken. Kuwait's coastline measures just 160 meters from north to south, and a large part was already occupied by ports, industrial areas, military zones, and dense neighborhoods connected to the capital. Therefore, the only natural solution was to grow inward, but this solution ran into another obstacle: the desert itself. As you can imagine, building in the Arabian desert is not like building in the Brazilian countryside. The climate in this region is extreme. Temperatures that exceed 50 degrees Celsius, winds that carry sand, almost no humidity, and an unstable, poor, sandy soil. In addition, the lack of natural shade and basic resources like water and vegetation made this urban expansion unattractive, both from a technical standpoint and in terms of quality of life. That's when a bold idea emerged. Instead of competing for the few remaining meters of coastline, why not multiply the shoreline? Instead of bringing people to the sea, the plan was to bring the sea to the people, carving a network of navigable canals into the desert. Each canal would create new waterfronts, allowing thousands of lots to have direct access to the water, as if they were miniature islands. That way, the logic became simple. If you don't have any more coastline, you build more coastline. This idea would shape the birth of one of the most curious urban projects in the Middle East, the Sabah Al-Ahmad Sea City. But how was the construction planned and designed, and what techniques were used to accomplish such a feat? The concept of Sabah Al-Ahmad Sea City is both ingenious and radical. Instead of expanding vertically with skyscrapers or competing for the few meters of natural coastline, the Kuwaiti decided to create his own artificial coastline by digging canals into the desert and connecting them to the sea. But it's important to point out that the project was built on an existing marshy and tidal coastal region, not in the middle of the arid desert. The chosen location was Al-Kiran, a virtually untouched region in the south of the country near the border with Saudi Arabia. This area had two features that made it ideal: two natural tidal channels already in place and a relatively flat topography, which makes excavation and water circulation easier. The idea was to transform this dry land into a mosaic of winding channels, artificial lakes, and livable shores. Therefore, the channels were designed to maximize contact with the water. In other words, instead of a straight coastline, they created curves, inlets, sea arms, and navigation routes, exponentially expanding the useful shoreline surface. This way, each block can end at a marina, each street can lead to a beach, and each house can have its own private bathing area. Besides the luxury, this ensures that almost the entire city can benefit from the sea breeze, which helps to ease the extreme desert temperatures. The master plan was made for up to 100,000 people, but with the project expanding over the years and new sections regularly opening, the planners expected to accommodate up to 250,000 people in this city, focusing on high-end residences, resorts, and nautical infrastructure. But there's an interesting detail that we can't overlook. Unlike many projects in the region, this city wouldn't be built on artificial islands like in Dubai, but rather carved directly into the arid desert. This reduces the impact on the seabed and makes the construction more integrated with the natural coastal ecosystem. But although it seems modern, the idea of digging canals to create waterfront properties dates back to practices of ancient civilizations, such as those of Mesopotamia and Egypt, which also manipulated waterways. For agriculture and urban planning, the difference here lies in the scale, technology, and luxury purpose. This initial approach paved the way for a unique urban system where the sea becomes infrastructure, and the desert is shaped not by streets, but by navigable canals. Turning a piece of desert into a navigable city connected to the sea required more than just money and machines. It required predicting the behavior of nature with almost surgical precision. And the biggest obstacle was the water. How could they ensure that artificially dug canals wouldn't turn into salty, foul-smelling, stagnant pools? That's a common problem in coastal engineering projects. When water doesn't circulate well, oxygen levels drop, algae proliferate, and marine life disappears. To solve this without relying on pumping stations, which would be expensive, noisy, and energy inefficient, the project's engineers turned to an elegant solution, simulating nature before confronting it. They created a computerized hydrodynamic model, using real data on winds, tides, and currents. This allowed them to predict how the water would behave at every curve, inlet, and fork in the canals. Based on these results, the system was adjusted with massive tidal gates that open and close on their own, using only the pressure of the water. Relief channels were added where the flow was too strong to prevent erosion on the banks and reduce wear on the foundations. Breakwater openings enable water renewal and allow marine life to enter. Another interesting technical detail is the gates. They don't have electronic parts. They work like natural valves opened by high tide and automatically closed at low tide. A 100% passive system with no energy consumption. But another concern was making sure the channels wouldn't deform over time. Water, even in gentle flows, has enormous erosive power. That's why the channel layouts were designed to distribute hydraulic pressure evenly, with reinforced banks, dissipation zones, and wide curves where necessary. Vegetation is also part of the engineering. Salt-tolerant species were planted on the artificial islands and along the banks of the canals. These plants stabilize the soil, absorb salt, and create living habitats, contributing to the balance of the local microclimate. In other words, while other coastal cities try to protect their shores from nature, Sabah Al-Ahmad was designed to work with it, using the environment as an ally, not as an obstacle. And is it precisely this choice to respect natural limits instead of challenging them that makes this city so different from what you see, for example, in Dubai? But while Kuwait chose to work with nature, another wealthy Gulf neighbor took a very different path, prioritizing form over function. And that's where Dubai comes in. While Kuwait was digging up the desert to bring the sea inland, Dubai was doing the opposite, taking sand to the sea to create land where there was none. Projects like Palm Jumeirah in the world transformed the coastline of the United Arab Emirates into a global postcard, but at a high technical and environmental cost. The islands of Dubai were built with massive dredging of sand from the seabed, shaped into symbolic forms like palm trees or world maps. But the visual spectacle ran into contradictions. The barriers protecting these islands also hinder natural water flow, causing issues like stagnation and erosion. In contrast, the maritime city of Kuwait was shaped based on the actual behavior of nature. Its canals do not follow tourist aesthetics, but respect the curves of the tides with wide entrances that facilitate water renewal and anticipate environmental degradation. While Dubai built a symbol, the Kuwaiti built a system, a discrete solution aligned with the logic of the environment where it was created. But what does this choice between spectacle and sustainability really reveal about the role of this city today? The maritime city of Sabah, Al-Ahmad, is not just an urban experiment. It is a direct result of the choices that the Kuwaiti made during a period of trauma. After the Gulf War, the country saw its oil wells burn for months, an unprecedented ecological disaster. Rebuilding with environmental awareness was as much a political necessity as a symbolic one. The project aims to be a new kind of Arab city, combining private luxury with ecological engineering. But it also has its limitations. The city is, above all, residential, car-dependent, with few public spaces and no real urban density. It's a response to the desert for quality of life, but not necessarily the creation of a vibrant urban chaifi. Even so, turning a desert into a navigable, clean, and self-regulated city is no small feat. It's geopolitical engineering and nature stitched together in the same territory. In the end, Sabah Al-Ahmad shows that in the Persian Gulf, progress doesn't have to be a confrontation with nature. It can be a careful adaptation to it. And maybe that's the real lesson behind this seemingly strange city carved into the desert. Thank you for watching this video until now. Did you know about this topic? Did you know about this great city? It's amazing, isn't it? Leave your thoughts about it in the comments. Do you think we would need a coastal city like this here in Brazil? With all these capabilities and interactions with nature? Leave your opinion in the comments. I'll stop here. A big hug and see you in the next video.